I'm either going to blow your mind and change your mind on how you look at tactics and formations, or I'm just going to piss you off of how stupid it might sound, but give me a minute and just let me cook. In this video, I'm going to try to explain something that I think a lot of fans are missing when it comes to Rúben Amorim's tactics and Manchester United. I keep hearing people say, the formation doesn't work and Amorim needs to change it immediately. But here's the thing, I don't think moving to a back four or adding an extra man in midfield will change much, if anything at all. You see, all managers have a core philosophy. It's the why behind their tactics. It's the manager's footballing ideology. Pressing versus sitting deep, attacking versus defense, possession-based versus playing direct, youth or experience. Some examples: Guardiola's positional play, Klopp's gegenpressing, Van Gaal's possession play, Mourinho's pragmatism. You can even go further back and you can think about Cruyff's total football or Helenio Herrera's Catenaccio. The key point is a formation is separate from the philosophy. All the managers I mentioned have changed their formations, but their philosophy, the way their teams play, has stayed the same. Formations are just structures. 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 3-4-3, whatever. But philosophy is the blueprint of play. It dictates how a team presses, builds up attacks, and defends transitions. If your philosophy is high pressing and vertical transitions, it doesn't matter if you start with a back four or a back three, the behaviours are the same. I'll go into this a little bit deeper later, but Louis van Gaal explains it perfectly. He says it's a footballing philosophy more than a system. I played 4-3-3 with Ajax, 2-3-2-3 with Barcelona, and I can play 4-4-2 with AZ. But the philosophy stays the same. That's why you can find one team playing a fluid, possession-based football with 4-4-2 and another team using the exact same 4-4-2 but using it as a rigid defensive counter-attacking formation. It's why Barcelona's academy has been so successful. They don't teach formations, they teach philosophy, how to keep the ball and how every player must be comfortable in possession. So when their youth players graduate, they fit seamlessly into the team because they fit the philosophy aligns. So essentially, despite different formations, managers with a clear philosophy will make their teams play in the same way. And here's the problem with Amorim at Manchester United. His tactical philosophy isn't working right now. To quote Van Gaal again, he was asked if his philosophy can be used for every single team. And he said, I don't think you can adapt it to every possible situation. Even a man who has won multiple titles in multiple countries admitted there are limits. So why do I think changing the formation won't help? First, changing the formation doesn't erase the principles. Guardiola has used everything from 4-3-3 to 3-2-4-1 with inverted fullbacks, but his philosophy, his positional play, control, overloads, never changes. Klopp shifted from 4-2-3-1 at Dortmund to 4-3-3 at Liverpool, but gegenpressing stayed constant. That's why the same strengths and the same weaknesses, for example pressing intensity, quick counters, but also fatigue and vulnerability in behind, reoccur regardless of the shape. Second, recurring issues are philosophical, not structural. If a manager's philosophy demands a high line, they'll always risk balls in behind. If a philosophy prioritizes possession, they'll always struggle with low blocks. And here's the key for Manchester United, so listen loudly. These problems do not disappear if you add a midfielder or tweak your back line. They're baked into the idea of play. So let's say Rúben Amorim switches to a 4-3-3. His philosophy remains the same. For example, he wants determined players who will fight for the ball. When Manchester United have the ball, when they're in possession, one of his current principles is to invite the high press, then go long to a target man like Sesko, which is why they've signed Sesko, with aggressive players coming in to fight for the second balls. That's why he's brought in a fighter like Cunha, an aggressive attacker like Mbeumo, and why he rates Mason Mount's tenacity and aggression and work rate so highly. His other key principles, for example, pressing, vertical transitions, fullback pushing high up, like wingbacks, they will remain the same no matter what the formation. So let's just look. In a 4-3-3, you'd still see inverted wingers close to the striker to contest the second balls. You'd still see fullbacks like Dorgu pushing forward aggressively to provide width, sometimes ineffectively. You might even see Ahmad playing right back. And here's the thing, an extra man in midfield won't turn Amorim's side into a tiki-taka side, because that is not his philosophy. Formations are the skin, but the philosophy is the skeleton. You can change the skin, but if the skeleton has flaws, they will keep on resurfacing. So what can be done? Let's be honest, Amorim seems pretty committed to the 3-4-3 or the 3-4-2-1, whatever you want to call it. But if he moved to a 4-3-3, the issues would still remain the same. The real question is, does he have it in himself to abandon his philosophy at Manchester United? Amorim himself has said, "I will stick with my idea until the end. I change something tactically every game." That tells us he sees his philosophy as the backbone, but not completely immovable. To succeed at United, he shouldn't just throw his philosophy out, because that's what got him here in the first place. That's what's made him so successful. Instead, he needs to adapt the expression of it to fit the Premier League and the players that he has. Where the problems lie: cohesion in transitions. When United lose the ball, they're often so stretched. Patience in possession. Amorim himself admits that they struggle with low blocks, and they really do. And here's the thing, these aren't formation issues, they're execution issues linked to the philosophy. So the solution isn't to, pick up and throw away and abandon his philosophy, it's to evolve it. For example, he could add more layered possession, giving his team variation against low blocks. That's exactly what Guardiola and Klopp had to learn in England. And to mention, Klopp and Guardiola, there's lessons to be learned from these top managers. Klopp didn't abandon gegenpressing, he just added more control after the early years of chaos. And Guardiola didn't ditch positional play, but he adapted to England with inverted fullbacks and stronger defensive midfielders. And on the flip side, I want to look at Carlo Ancelotti as some sort of case study, because early on in his career he was very rigid and he was very heavily influenced by Sacchi and his 4-4-2, to the point where at Parma Ancelotti refused to sign Roberto Baggio because he couldn't see how a number 10 fitted into his 4-4-2. And obviously he later admitted that this was a mistake, because obviously Roberto Baggio is an absolute world of a player. At Juventus though, he changed. He built his team around Zinedine Zidane as the number 10. Over the years, Ancelotti became the ultimate pragmatist, building around his players and not a rigid idea. So when you think about it, Amorim's options are actually wide open. For example, does he evolve his philosophy like Klopp did and Guardiola did? Or does he take the Ancelotti route and adapt purely to his players that he has? Or then does he go full Bielsa, sticking to his ideals no matter what, even if it burns out? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with my assessments, or am I just waffling? Also, if you want, please give the video a like and consider subscribing, as it would really help the channel. Cheers!